21 minutes exactly before it is 1 p.m. in Central African time. We're going to be in conversation with Ipileng Sebone after 1 p.m. She is our favorite cattle lady. We're going to talk about smart agriculture, cattle farming. I think a very important conversation, especially as we look at the foot and mouth pandemic that we're experiencing in South Africa, and just amongst other things, how she's navigating that, the biometrics that come with that on her own establishment, and also just some of the speaking engagements that she's going to be embarking on. So that conversation coming through after 1. Right now, though, we speak to a gentleman who has been doing work for a little over 15 years of working alongside South Africa's leadership teams, business coach and founder of Grow Business Coaching. Graham Mitchell has observed what sustainable growth is looking like, especially when it is not driven by consistent innovation, but by disciplined execution. All right. His new book, Compounding Advantage, draws on insights from more than 180 companies with a combined turnover exceeding 15 billion South African rand, and urges that long-term successes come from focused progressive moves, as it were, when we look at quarter after quarter, I beg your pardon. So for those of us who work in the space of agriculture and regenerative systems, this raises a very powerful question of, whether growth is less about disruption and more about stewardship. That's the big question that comes to my mind. But let's talk to Graham about his new book and what it's really about. Graham, welcome to Channel Africa. Pleasure to talk to you this afternoon. Thank you for joining me.
Good afternoon, Mmatsheko, and good listeners. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We live in an era that almost glorifies disruption. So why do you argue that discipline is not necessarily innovation, and that it's more about a true compounding of advantage, as it were? Talk to us about that. I thought that was very fascinating.
Yes, what we've seen over 15 years of working with South African businesses is that our clients that get the best results, ones that choose a few key areas to focus in, and usually on a sort of quarterly rhythm, and then execute incredibly well on the few items. The results of which, at the end of that 3-month period, is they've improved their business. And then they repeat that quarter after quarter on a consistent basis. And so what happens is each quarter, the business is a little bit better. And those continual improvements compound on each other and results in exceptional results over a period of time.
Okay. You've worked with over 180 businesses over a long period of time. What consistently separates the companies that thrive from those that seem to be stalling?
So it starts a lot with leadership, and a leader's sort of will to change. Because when a business needs to grow, typically the leadership is going to need to grow first. And so you find often with entrepreneurs is they get stuck somewhere along their journey from starting a business. And where they often get stuck is usually an entrepreneur to build a successful business needs to bring a set of skills with them. And that set of skills allows them to, create a product or service, and they need to be able to do that exceptionally well. And those skill sets, and often those skills might be, works where they can get funding through, etc., allow them to start the business and usually get the business some way down the line in terms of, getting it to be profitable. It's got, good product and service, customers are coming in. And that relies a lot on the brilliance of that individual. Then at a point, the business gets to a point where it can't just rely on that individual anymore if it wants to continue growing. And it's this shift in the leadership that is required, where the leader who used to be the sort of rainmaker, for want of a better word,
Right.
needs to shift to be a leader who builds teams and leads people. And that shift in leadership is a very important shift to make. And often entrepreneurs don't recognize that that shift is needed. And then they get stuck in their businesses. And so that's quite a critical inflection point. And we see our clients that do well, the leaders are able to recognize and self-reflect the shift in the leadership needed, and then obviously to make some of the necessary adjustments.
All right, it's 1:45 p.m. in Central African time. We're in conversation with Graham Mitchell, who is founder of Grow Business Coaching, and he's also written a brand new book, Compounding Advantage, which draws on insights from his work with close to 200 companies over time. And listen, we're talking about a turnover here of billions and billions and billions of rands here. So if there's one person to talk about when it comes to business, it's definitely Graham Mitchell. Graham, you're a founder, and I'm sure you may relate to the story a little bit, because founders fall into a trap where they want to do too much too soon, right? Let's talk about the nuances around perhaps why focusing on fewer can actually yield high impact in terms of priority, instead of trying to do too many things at once. I think you alluded to that in your last response, but why is it so critical to just have a few things that are going correctly instead of a bunch of different things that could really derail you and make your practice a little bit more difficult?
So I always like to use this example with clients to illustrate the principle. And so let's say I've got a choice of 4 projects to do. And I have time in the year, and let's say each project will take me 10 hours. And in a period of time, I've only hours available. So what should I do? The one option is I'd start each of the 4 projects, and in the first period, I will spend 5 hours on each of them. At the end of the period, I've completed none of them, and therefore my business gained no benefits or results. I then have to repeat that in the next period, and so at the end of the period, I would have completed all of the projects and only then be getting the benefit in my business. The alternative approach is to go, well, I've got 20 hours this period, and I can therefore take 2 of the projects and complete them. And therefore, at the end of the first period, those 2 projects have been done, and the benefits are being reaped in my business. And then I do the next 2 projects in the second period. And so by focusing and getting something, and you actually reap benefit business earlier than if you spread out your time on many things. The other thing that we see where entrepreneurs and business leaders try to do too many things and get them all done is they end up doing them to a lower standard than if they'd really just focused on something and done it brilliantly well. To really shift the needle in a business, you need to do things brilliantly well. And so if you try to things, you often with a mediocre set of results.
Okay. Let's delve a little bit into the book. I think looking at the time and space that we're moving into, where there's a lot of technological advancements that could either hurt a business, depending on how we use it, or help in us being able to compound and advance and get things done a little bit quicker, whatever the priorities are in our business. So let's talk about how the book is serving as a space for people to take advantage of the time that we're currently living in.
Absolutely. I mean, we're living in times where technology is changing quickly. And that's why it's really important for business leaders to take the time to strategically about their business, which is really an important aspect of compounding advantage, because you need to choose the right things to focus on. And the choice of the right things to focus on is really a strategic decision, because all businesses have opportunities, and choosing the right opportunity is really critical. I liken it to investing money. And so if you've got two investment, one of them might be a good investment and will yield you a good result, and the other one might be a bad investment and either yield you a poor result or lose you money. And so the same principle applies in your business. You're going to have to make choices as to where you focus your time and energy, and making those choices correctly is very important. And the first thing, because the world is changing and there's new technology and a lot happening, what we're encouraging, or do encourage our clients to do, is take time out to think strategically about your business. Mm-hmm. Look forward and go, what's happening in the world and what does that mean for my business? And therefore, what should I do now to respond to those changes? And if entrepreneurs are so busy just doing the day-to-day in their business, they don't take that time to look forward. And then I think the second part is obviously choosing correct. And so if your industry or business is likely to be disrupted by some of these technology changes, then choosing to focus on, getting your business up to speed or adopting those new technologies may well be the most important priority to focus on, let's say in the next 12 period. And then, focus all your efforts and resources in shifting your business to adopt those new technologies.
Right. I think one thing that you are able to do so well, and perhaps why your book would come highly recommended for established business owners and chief executive officers, as it were, is how you are able to, through the book and your writing, connecting leadership development with team performance and operational execution and practical systems. I mean, it's all one dialogue. Why is that so important? And why do you think there is such a big fragmentation between all those themes?
So it's a very good observation, Mmatsheko, in that leadership really is at the center of all of that. Mm-hmm. And that's why leading a business is tough, because it involves so many different things. And so the starting point for you as a leader is to be reflective of your leadership and learning about leadership and how to yourself as a leader. Having a coach or someone to guide you can be very valuable, because as an individual, we're often not very good at observing ourselves. But then as a leader, you're going to have to do some really critical things in the business to ensure its success. One is set the direction. So where do we want to go with this business? Set the vision and develop a plan to get there. The second critical thing that a leader needs to do in the business is build a winning team. Because you get to that outcome, or unlikely to, unless you have a team of really good people. And so the leadership comes in your ability to attract and retain the right skill sets to grow the business. Then the next area is what we call operational excellence, which is all of the business. So it could be the operational side of, let's say, the farming or the growing of the crops or plants, sales and marketing, it could be financial management of the business. And all of those need to be done to a very high standard, because the degree to which they're not done to a high standard will create friction and drag on the business. And ideally, what you as the leader want to be doing is two things. One, setting the expectation of a high standard, ensuring that the business knows what that is. And so that's really important for a leader, because often a leader comes in to a business with a certain skill set. They might be really good at the farming side of the business, but they don't necessarily know, financial stuff or financial management. And so often the areas that the founder is not strong in lag behind in the business. And so the leader needs to ensure they understand what a high standard is, but then hire the right people to deliver it. It's not their job to deliver it. And so, yes, the leader's really at the center of setting the direction, bringing the right team on board, and then ensure that team delivers to the right standard that's needed for the success of the business.
Okay. And then just in finality, we have run out of time, Graham. Just your final message, in terms of the importance of compounding advantage. I really like that title. How can we take advantage, and also how do we, what will we walk away with from reading the book Compounding Advantage, especially if we're looking at regenerating, which really means unlearning a lot of the things that didn't work for the business previously, and trying to rebuild new steps and get into a new world when it comes to how we create business, how we collaborate, how we create a personal curriculum, because I think this is one of the books definitely for anyone who's in business to add into your personal curriculum, and then relearn some new skills on how to build a team, how to advance oneself, etc., and then take it from there.
I think in closing, what I would share is one, the principle I shared at the beginning, which is identify the one or two really critical things that will move your business forward, and focus on those and reap that benefit. And then the second one is to be curious to learn. And that means you're wanting to learn about how you grow as a leader, you're wanting to learn what best looks like in all the different areas of your business. Because if you combine that curiosity of wanting to be better, how do I learn more? That will aid you to choose the right priorities to focus on in your business. And then obviously the discipline to execute on those priorities. The challenge all business owners and leaders have is they're busy day to day, making sure the products and services are produced and the money's invoiced and collected. And so, having discipline to always ensure you put time aside to work on the business, not in the business, would be very important to executing well.
Right. Graham, thank you very, very much. For those that want to get the book Compounding Advantage, How Small Steps Build Big Businesses is the title of the book. It's a big green cover. You cannot miss it. Where can we get the book?
So it is available at exclusive books in certain bookshops and exclusive books online. And there's also a Kindle version as well.
Okay, so it doesn't matter where in the world you are, you can actually get the book. Exclusive books, locally, Amazon Kindle as well is where you can find the book. Otherwise, more information on Graham Mitchell's work and his company, his work as a coach, you can go on growza.com. All right, growza.com, and also a lot of information about Compounding Advantage, the book that we've been discussing. Thank you very much, Graham. All the best, and hopefully we'll chat again soon. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. That is the voice of Graham Mitchell, who is the author of Compounding Advantage, How Small Steps Build Big Businesses. We're 2 minutes away from 1 p.m. in Central African Time.